So Tonic is heading out, but joining me for this next part will be Yoka.
Yay!
Thank you.
And again, oops.
Sorry. Thank you very much, SB, for your $50 donation. For my friend Reina, whose father's fighting against cancer. Best of luck to you both.
A quick shout out to Inti Creates, the developer of this game. They also developed Mega Man 9 and 10, which you'll both be seeing tomorrow in the Mega Man block. And they also developed Mega Man 0. Do you know if they did ZX?
Yep.
And they also did ZX, which you saw earlier tonight, just shortly before this. So, you know, shout out to them. Like I said, they held this awesome speedrunning event where they offered a grand prize of a trip to Japan. That was really a lot of fun. And it's really a cool idea where a developer like that can kind of become more involved with the community. So that's always appreciated. So Inti Creates is an awesome developer, and I'm interested in seeing what they come up with next. I think Greenlink's just ready to go whenever the stream layout's set. You're good? Okay, great. So let's do a countdown and we'll get started. Oh. Greenlink checking his backpack. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. Yoka, if you could please introduce us to this mode.
So yeah, it's basically all the boss fights, without the privation. So you're gonna see the final boss without privation. It's like a gauntlet, as it said. So it's pretty tricky. I mean, you still have, it's basically Nova 3, is it? Nova 2, without checkpoints. It's just all the bosses.
Now, I'm personally unfamiliar with this mode. Is he going to be fighting each of the bosses? Is he going to be getting skill refills between them?
Nope.
No. Okay, so it's like an even more difficult Nova 3 then. Is that interesting? Yeah, so I mean, does he have access to all the different skills in the game?
I'm not sure actually.
Okay. It looks like it looks like in the upper right he just has Astrosphere and Heal. So it'll be the same abilities that we've seen.
Yeah.
But it is, again, like Nova 3, it is going to be very important to
Not take
conserve
damage.
those and use them appropriately.
So Merrick down.
Next up, Stratos. And again, Stratos is one you really want to be careful to, one that the skills are very useful on, because he's on and off screen so often, and whenever he's off screen, he's of course invulnerable. And so you really want to be able to damage him as much as possible when he is vulnerable. And the way to do that is certainly through Astrosphere.
So one thing to look for in the Stratos fight is to avoid his desperation attack, like the whole animation and such. And you can do that with a very good, well-timed Astrosphere.
Yeah, we didn't see too much of Stratos the first time around, honestly, so it's cool that we can see a bit more of his attacks this time around.
So right now, yeah, that looks good. Now we just have to damage the boss as soon as he pops out. Yeah, perfect.
Nice. Next up, we've got Jota.
Worst boss.
The interesting thing about the Orochi weapon, Tonic mentioned earlier that it's able to tag up to 8 times, so that's one benefit. But one interesting note about it as well is that you see when he shoots, there's also a little flying drone that comes out of the gun, which just sort of, hovers momentarily and shoots lasers around, tagging anything surrounding it. So that can be both helpful and a hindrance to you, because if you're, like in, for example, the Elise fight, where you want to very, very carefully deal damage, and you have a particular strategy that deals it very, very carefully, any one of those rogue shots could potentially deal more damage to one of the Elise forms and make a resurrection increasingly possible. So you really have to be careful using it at some times. But overall, it's quite useful. You can see, I mean, if you look in the upper left, you can kind of track which weapon he's using at a given time. And right now, he is using the default weapon. The different weapons don't... maybe there's an exception or two, but the weapons that you get in a run don't deal any more damage by themselves. In particular, the bullets don't deal more damage, nor does the flash field associated with it. Here's Carrera. We know him well. So Greenlink did run actually the 3DS version of this game, which came out before the Steam version, which is being played here. And we mentioned before that the story mode had the pre-evasion ability associated with it. Now the 3DS version did not have a speedrun mode, meaning that the story mode was the only one available, and so you always had that pre-evasion. And so routing that was significantly different from routing speedrun mode, because you could take damage much more often, and damage abuse wasn't as much a thing, but at the same time you needed to be careful about using your flash field because you didn't want to be, because when you're using it you take damage, and so you just had to balance that delicately. But now that speedrun mode is out, it is generally the preferred mode because it adds that extra challenge of lacking pre-evasion, and it gives you an additional timer. It even offers save states, which, while obviously they're not used in a speedrun, are very, very useful for practice. So I think that's kind of that ability to use save states is one more opportunity where a developer has, seen an opportunity to offer an in-game mechanic that's helpful to speedrunners to learn the game. It's really, really cool that all of these developers, and indie developers especially, are kind of seeing the opportunity in speedrunning and seeing the opportunity of communicating directly with the speedrunning community. I mean, this is just one. I mentioned that we had a race of Azure Striker Gunvolt, and that's only one of many times where we've actually where the developer has reached out to the speedrunning community to try and organize some kind of event.
You can see that he has saved up so that he has 3 skills again. Gonna use 2 on Viper, very useful on Viper to avoid this bullet hell. The skills regen very, very slowly after you use them. You can see on the bottom left. Well, when there's UI, you can see on the bottom left.
Here we've got Elise. This is really an interesting boss, and I just love the idea of, again, I mean, I said when we were in our stage before that the theme is necromancy, and it is just really cool that they're able to reflect that by having the ability for her to resurrect her other side. Because the idea here is that if you look very closely at the sprite, there's one side that looks sad and one side that kind of has a frown face on. And the idea is that there's a dominant and submissive side there, sort of a multiple personality approach. It's really interesting character design and a really interesting way to implement that into the actual boss design and how the boss fight goes.
You can also see that Greenlink chooses not to use the A-tag weapon, just for that, what like you said earlier about the rogue shots getting in the way.
There's sort of if you want to check this game out, it's obviously on Steam, and there's sort of a much easier version as well called Mighty Gunvolt. It's largely a different game, but it has a lot of the same characters. It's just sort of like a fun little cute companion to this game, which is, as you can see, much more difficult. But Mighty Gunvolt itself is a fun game as well, and is a lot easier to learn because you have a lot fewer abilities at your disposal.
You can see he's saving up on those skills again, be able to use the final boss.
One interesting thing that Inti Creates did as well was they introduced a Kudos Keeper mode, which
is impossible.
which is impossible. Well, but it's really, really cool because, again, there's that number in the upper left, not the score, but the 2 to 3 digit number that counts up your what's called kudos. And as you deal damage, that kudos count rises. But the kudos count drops as soon as you take damage, as you see there. However, in Kudos Keeper, normally in a speedrun, it doesn't really have much of an effect. But in Kudos Keeper mode, as your kudos count rises, I believe up to 1,000 where it peaks, you do a lot more damage according to what your kudos level is at. And so in Kudos Keeper mode, once you rack up the kudos, you're just destroying bosses in no time at all. But because as soon as you take damage, you run out of kudos and it goes to 0. Basically, if you take one single hit, your run is over if you're going for the perfect run. Or else you can choose to finish it out and just, stick with whatever time you get there.
So yeah, it's very important that he takes as little damage as possible here, because again, he has to fight the final boss as well, and this time without privation and infinite energy.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a much different fight. So yeah, he chooses to heal there. And he still has one skill left. Another heal is possible.
Now, if you die once, is it over in this mode?
I assume so.
I love that they give you so much time before the ceiling actually crushes you. Like, you have so much time. Even in my blind race of this game, my blind playthrough, I didn't even see the ceiling come down from the sky, so they just give you so much time.
Oh, he leveled up. Health should be fine.
So I believe all we have... Okay. All we have left is Asimov, and Greenlink has requested serious time for this final boss, so let's see how it goes.
Again, this is much, much harder than in the speedrun mode.
We're on phase 3. Here it comes, time.
I just want to point out real quick that the only way to avoid the chains, which are still instant, like one hit kills you, since you don't have infinite jumps, you can't avoid them like you do in the normal run, so you have to take damage and use the invulnerability frames you get. And you're also invulnerable while using a skill, so he uses that too.
All right then. Round of applause
Very
for
nice.
Greenlink. Very impressive, especially considering playing through illness. Well done. And another round of applause for Jarmar, the winner of our race. And of course, thank you very much to our lovely commentators.
Thanks for showing that off, guys.